So for those of you who just have joined recently in the last few moments, we are going to start at 4:05, which according to my clock is in 2 minutes. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the April CAG meeting. Thank you for being here. I hope you've had a chance to enjoy the lovely weather today, and if not earlier than this meeting, then hopefully soon enough thereafter. As always, I will turn it over to Desiree.
Thank you, Paula and Tara. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right, great. Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Paula said, it is absolutely gorgeous outside. I haven't been out since this morning, but it looks very lovely out. We were out yesterday. We have slides about that, so we'll talk about it in a minute. Once again, my name is Desiree Gazzo. I am with HNTB Zero, the PMCM for the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project. We are speaking tonight on behalf of New York City DDC. We have colleagues from DDC joining us, as well as our sister agencies. So without further ado, we will begin. In this presentation, focus topics will include construction progress, environment, amenities, community programming, and a hiring compliance note. And then we'll have questions at the end. It's a little shorter than the last one that we had, so we'll just go through the whole presentation. So for the Work With Us update, we do have our ESCR Spring 2025 Work With Us quarterly information session. Improve and support your job search by expanding your network. It's who you know. So we are collaborating with St. Mary's Church and Catholic Charities on the Lower East Side of New York. The event will be held at St. Mary's Church, which is on 440 Grand Street on May 12th from 1 to 3 p.m. So we do hope that you share this flyer and the registration link with your network to, again, attend the event. And there's more information here. There's a QR code. Please let us know if anybody needs paper copies, if you want us to then post it anywhere. Or brought to your buildings, we can certainly do that. So please reach out if you'd like us to provide that. For community programs, this past weekend, Ethan and Pauline were at the Corliers Hooks Park Spring Fest. I was not able to make it, but I heard it was a very, very lovely event. They had the dragon lion dance. I'm sorry, the lion dance, and gave away all sorts of prizes. We gave away baseballs. It was a beautiful day, and we were very happy to be involved with that event. Yesterday, we partnered with Parks and had our Earth Day celebration at Alfred E. Smith Community Center. We had the children planting, or the students and the community, everybody was planting little vegetables in pots, and they drew on the pots. And then we have a banner that's now hanging at the community center on the fence there. So it was a really lovely day. Parks had a lot of games and music, and it was really, really great. So again, we look forward to doing more activities like this in the future. On to the updates for construction. Not much has changed since the last time we presented, and again at CB3 as well. We're moving forward with the construction. We have a couple of updates and updates on the amenities, so I think we'll just move forward and focus on that at this point. Again, in Area 1, which is to the south, we have the flood wall and floodgate operations. And then 2, along the future greenway, the flood wall and utility work. Corliers the Park, the planting has been really taking off there. So we're excited to, see that moving forward. In Area 4, which is really the phase 1 portion of the park that we're getting ready to open, we have Esplanade paver installation, tree and shrub plantings, and park finishes, basketball courts, and then of course ball fields 1 and 2 is open. In the kind of Delancey Street Bridge area, we have the road restoration work, including utilities and sidewalk installation ongoing. In 6, in the center of the park, we have the tennis court construction and additional paver installation. The East Houston Street retaining wall activities are ongoing. In the northern portion of the park, again, the test pits and that deep sewer work is ongoing, as well as the flood protection installation, which we'll talk about in just a bit. At East 10th Street, we have ongoing utility and sewer work. And then throughout the FDR drive, we do have partial FDR lane closures as we work on those crossings and some additional utility work. For the phasing update, we now have a more detailed map of the phase 1 openings. Again, these are scheduled to open on May 26th, and it does include kind of the extents of the pathway system. So, you can review that, and of course, let us know if you have any additional specific questions. But this hasn't changed since the kind of graphic image that we had shown the last time. It just includes more of the pathways. Also, I guess what has changed is that the fireboat house area is now going to be open in that area. Originally, this was showing as a closed area. We are moving forward with actually having that whole area open, so there won't be kind of a disconnect there. There will be porta potties near ball fields 1 and 2, and 2 near the multi-use turf. And this fence line is, again, a representation. The exact limits of the fence line will be finalized kind of as we move closer to the actual opening date, the extents here on the F1. So again, our graphics are as close as they can be, but they are, still graphics and illustrative. So I hope that you remember that. And then the continued phase 2 transition, again, maintaining 42% plus of open space. For May 27th, ball fields 7 and 8 will be closed, the East 10th Street Bridge closed, and access to Stuyvesant Cove Park will be closed. The gate on the bottom right of the corner of the track will remain open. The continued phase 2 transition. Now this has changed a little bit since the last time we were at the CAG. We did get an update that Field 6 will close July 1st. Originally, or the last time we spoke, it was August 1st. And then when we presented at the CB3, we were unsure that date was still being discussed. So Field 6 will close July 1st, and we have coordinated that with Parks Department as well. So the track area and just around the track area will remain open as we, during that time period still though. So for construction activities, we are, again, as we're moving into this phase 2 area, moving into the East 13th Street flood protection. So we wanted to include the graphic to show the extent of the flood wall here, the floodgate that goes across the FDR, and then the flood wall, the wall improvements here along the park, as some of this work is already starting, including, again, in this northern end, the wall here. So as we are now moving into new kind of territories that we haven't discussed before, we will try to bring in some of the renderings so that we can all refamiliarize ourselves with what we're building now as we move into phase 2. So the preparation for construction on the flood wall and floodgate foundations taking place from East 10th Street Bridge to the pinch point will be starting. This activity will be ongoing for about 2 to 3 weeks, and some night work will be required in the FDR Drive again. And this work is primarily around Reese Building 5 and Reese Building 4. We have been communicating and coordinating with Reese on this work, and we will have the advisory on what's going on posted as well. The utility crossing in the vicinity of East Housing Street. Again, we mentioned that these utility crossings were going to happen. So the daytime work is ongoing and the night work began on April 21st. So just a couple of days ago. This work will be ongoing for about 6 weeks. And again, we need the nighttime work to reduce the impact to the FDR Drive traffic. We can remind everyone that this operation, when we have done it in other areas of the FDR Drive, have been loud and a bit disruptive, but we do have the noise and air quality monitors in place, and we do have advisory and what's going on signage posted in the area and on the website. So these are some of the photos of the one all the way to the right is the water main night work that we were just talking about south of East Houston Street. The other 2 photos are sewer work in ball field 7 and 8, and then sewer work at East 10th Street. So again, a lot of the sewer work it's deep, so it takes a bit longer than the other utility work. Construction photos of the benches and sod installed at the nature exploration area from this month. Here and there, we are very excited about all the sod that has been installed. 2.7 acres in phase 1 so far. And then these are a few trees that are blooming near the Delancey Street Bridge. In total, 590 trees have already been planted and over 21,000 shrubs, perennials, and grasses. Some additional photos, the planting bed and small lawn area near the picnic and barbecue areas. The coal bins and garbage receptacles have been installed near the picnic and the barbecue areas. and our first bike racks have been installed near the Delancey Street lawn. For the what we've heard, we did receive some comments about the graffiti that has been taking place, specifically along Delancey Street and in the kind of Parks M&O building. So the contractor will remove the graffiti before the Memorial Day opening. And then Luke, I believe you had wanted to speak to this point about the Parks M&O.
Hey, thanks, Desiree. Everyone, my name is Luke Alicea. I'm the District 3 manager for Parks. We had received a few questions regarding how we're going to maintain the park once it's open, so I figured I would just kind of give a little pitch to that, and then if there's anything else, I can also address it. So I got anything to do with amenities, I'm pushing it back to DDC regarding like, will there be porta-johns, things of that nature, but we are working with them, and I'm confident we will have that. But I was asked, what will the hours be? Will the Delancey Street entrance be closed at sunset? And will the lights be on at dark? So the hours are going to be 6 a.m. to 1 a.m., which matches the historic timeline that East River Park has been open and what we have for the northern section. The entrance to the Delancey Street pedestrian bridge will not be closed. So it'll kind of match our other parks where even though it's closed at 1 a.m., we aren't going to lock it, and there's just a lot of logistical ramifications to that if we were to try. And then the lights will be on at night, just like any other park. And the lights we have there's a combo, it's kind of interesting, of DOT lights and the solar lighting. So just a different thing for East River Park, a little more environmental to have the solar lighting, which is a new feature, which is the only other park that has it is in Pier 42. So Lower East Side is getting kind of a new thing for parks. And then the second question I received was about does parks have space and access to facilitate maintenance, to do trash removal? So, Desiree didn't show it because I think it's maybe less interesting to the public, but I really care about our M&O facility. So the final M&O facility that will come down the road will not be ready for this, but DDC has committed to putting in a few office trailers and some storage immediately north of fields 1 and 2. So we'll be able to, and yeah, she's going to pull it up. So kind of, thank you, Desiree. Like in that general area, so the team will be able to on foot move from that section, which will be not in the park itself, not in the green area, but in the construction zone. They'll be able to walk from our temporary facility to take care of the area. And then we're still finalizing what the plan will be. But right now it's looking like we're going to have our normal team that starts at 6 to do unlocks. And then other people come on at 7. So there'll usually be 4 people that manage East River Park, Pier 42, and the surrounding areas from that 6 to 3:30 section. And then East River Park was selected as one of our sites for a mid shift, which enables us to have coverage going all the way till 9 p.m. It changes as the season changes. But if there's a few parks on the East Lower East Side that have that, including Tompkins, Sarah D, in Pier 42. So we'll have people there until 9. And then additionally, we have someone who's managing the tennis courts. So what's historically happened is somebody is there just to deconflict issues and make sure that if somebody has, the court reserved at certain times, that they're able to use it. So someone will be there managing who's going in and out of the courts in the morning. And nothing I said is permanent. We're going to adapt if there's any requirement to. If something doesn't make sense, we won't do it. But that's our initial plan. And then we'll kind of refine things as it gets closer, basically in the next month. But I'm here for other questions later on, but that's all I have. Thank you, Desiree.
Great, thank you, Luke. Okay, moving on to environmental reporting update and air quality monitoring. Again, this is the monitoring locations that we have, 15 to date, again, spread between Montgomery Street and East 10th Street. As we move into phase 2, and open portions down in the southern phase 1 area, we will likely see the monitors change locations again. So for the PA1 AQM March update, we have the graph here. Again, let's see, Montgomery Street to Jackson Street, we had a PM 2.5 alerts on the 10th and the 14th. Many of the alerts that we've received again throughout this chart were, dust, vehicle traffic, and construction activities where dust suppression techniques were applied, again, to help mitigate the dust. There were a couple of longer duration alerts in the East 6th Street to East 10th Street location. So we'll look into those a little bit more, but it seems to have happened on the 27th here and the 21st due to the activities that were happening on that day. And then specifically at East 10th Street, again, just a couple that were between 17 and 68 minutes. But again, the dust suppression techniques have been applied. For the parallel conveyance construction progress, again, much of the similar activities happening: utility relocation, test pit, sewer installation, gas relocation. And then again, at location 4, the East Houston Street to Columbia Street, we have that bus stop shift, and then parking limitations. And then we'll get into the location 1 activities in the next couple of slides here. So this is the work in the vicinity of Water Street, where we really had the most amount of construction activity to date. The restoration of Gouverneur Slip East, which is right here, has been ongoing or will be ongoing for roughly the next week. There is access to Lot 5 via South Street. So again, this parking lot has 2 access entries, and we've been working very closely with Gouverneur Gardens to make sure that there is access to the lots, Lot 5 and Lot 6, at all times. For the restoration of Water Street, this will require intermittent sidewalk closures on the north side of Water Street. Again, however, access will be maintained. And then most restoration up to Lot 6 is expected to conclude within the next month. So we are excited to get that finished up. The restoration of South Street is expected to begin at the end of May. This will require closure of South Street for approximately 3 days. Access to the parking lot will be maintained, but we will have to have a closure there. And again, that will be coordinated with Gouverneur Gardens. The Jackson Street sewer work is ongoing, and in coordination with Con Edison on the timeline for that. So as we find out more information, we will let you know. A few photos from parallel conveyance. This is the concrete base for Water Street Road restoration, the pedestrian ramp installation on Water Street, and sidewalk, which is looking really nice. And then the sidewalk restoration on Gouverneur Slip East. And then some of the utility photos, the diversion chamber in Jackson Street, well point drilling in Jackson Street, and then the gas main relocation, which we spoke about in East 18th Street. Just very quickly for project area 2 construction projects, nothing has changed, but we did want to put it in here as a reminder that Murphy Brothers Playground, Stuyvesant Cove Park, and Astor Levy are all open. And again, until we have the phase 2 closure, that access will be maintained to Stuyvesant Cove Park. So we are available for questions now.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do. Sorry, I can't raise my hand for some reason. Desiree, could you go back to the slide of the July 1st closure?
Sure. Yeah, of course. It might take me a minute, so bear
That's
with me.
And Luke, you're still here, right?
I would never leave early.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
if you look down there just below Field 6 where it meets the Esplanade, what
Mhm.
is the reason for that sort of closing part of the bridge and the path that, the part of the path there?
Yeah, so the fence line near the embayment is approximate. We're still working this part out,
Mhm.
which is, it does very harsh angle there. So that is one of the areas that we're still working on, and we'll have to come back with
Okay.
more definite details on how that closure is going to look.
Yeah, in terms of like safety and traffic flow, it would make more sense to me to cut it off sort of, like to,
Yeah. Yeah.
further, a little further south so that people can, circle, right? It's like a
Oh,
U-turn
right. Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Either
yeah.
here, right. We either
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
do the full or kind of cut it off,
Yeah,
at,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Okay. All right. Thank you. Just wanted to check on that. Oh, and I also, one more comment. So I should have looked at the calendar before we talked about this the last 2 times, but I know you haven't commented yet on the plans for phase 2, the exact dates and everything. I think when you presented the last 2 times, the tentative date was August 31st. That is the Sunday of Labor Day weekend. I'm assuming the construction workers would rather have the holiday weekend than come and shut the gates. So I just wanted to point out that, if they can, that's a little bit further encouragement for them to close it right after the holiday weekend instead of trying to do it on the holiday weekend.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Did you have a question for Luke, or that was just if Luke had any comments on the circulation for the park?
Yeah, that was it exactly. Because I know that I've commented on, Esplanade closures before, and parks had reasons for wanting to do it the way they did. So I just thought in case Luke wanted to talk about that.
Great. Luke, did you have anything?
I'll just add, kind of what Desiree said. This is all kind of a rough rendering.
Mhm.
We are having those discussions. Like, we need to have a no nonsense, like schematic level drawing of
Mhm.
what is the exact fence line. And I agree 100% with you. If there's not an articulatable reason as to why we have a dead end condition on that path that we can provide to you to make it make sense, then we would push back on that. There should be, in my mind, it should either be the whole bridge or none of the bridge, and so you could walk around. But maybe there's a
Okay.
reason why they need it. I don't know, but
Okay.
we'll definitely advocate for at least an explanation, if not just having the full flow of traffic.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wendy and then Robin.
Hi. Can you go to your slide? I think it's just one over with 13th Street showing the floodgate. I think it was one before, one after this one.
The rendering or?
Yeah,
Oh,
the rendering.
yeah.
And I can add this. So this is 13th Street. And last month you gave us a map of, maybe it was the month before, of the elevations in the future park. Just south of here, just south of here, the elevations are 3 feet and 5 feet. And it's the lowest elevations in the park along the FDR. So it's just on the other side of the floodgate. Why is that? Why do you have the low elevations where it's less protected in the, right where the floodgate ends?
So it usually has to do with where the underground flood protection is. I'd have to go back and take a closer look at that to be able to answer that more specifically. Because if the flood protection, like if the grade here, right, is higher, and the grade continues higher, like closer to the water, then that will act kind of as the wall, even though you can't physically see a wall. And then it allows the grade here to be lower because it is protected from the higher elevations around the park. So that is my guess, but I will come back. I can pull that back up and then give you a response. So see the high elevation of the wall, right, is maintained. The
Right.
wall to the and then to the wall here. And so if the park is higher here and then along the water, then it protects this whole portion, which is lower. Does that make sense?
Sort of, because that's where it's at grade. The park and Reese houses are at the same grade. And to me, that's been an area of concern. Is that a new wall on the west side of the drive, that wall that's shown there? Or is that
This one right
existing?
here,
Yeah,
I would have to take a look at that,
yeah,
see if that is, because this is all new, the flood wall and the flood gate.
yeah.
I just have to confirm if this specific wall right here is new as well. It doesn't appear to be, but we'll take that back.
Okay, because poor people at Reese houses dealing with all this ongoing construction at 10th Street. As soon as all the parallel conveyance is done, the bridge work starts. And how many years will that bridge work take?
We had the bridge timeline in there. I believe it will go into into 2026 as part of one of the final areas that's finished.
Well, and just one question. I was just in the park and was very surprised to see a crane lifting a boat out of the water and this is at Houston Street. And so here's this boat kind of flying over the mountain of gravel. Is that part of the construction, that boat?
To be completely honest with you, I do not know.
It
However,
was such a strange scene. Um, and I
It
and
was-
just because today we're getting some of the smoke from New Jersey, if we have a lot of smoke conditions this year, I do hope that when air quality exceeds the level, when it's bad, it would be really nice if we didn't have more construction adding to air quality issues in the community when we know there's going to be very poor air quality for everybody anyhow. And I know you can't do much about that, but I feel I have to say it. I don't know if it was an abandoned boat or not. It didn't look abandoned, but good guess. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and we will look into all of your questions, Wendy, and provide responses and
Thank you,
try to get a
Desiree.
response on the boat, especially because now I am very curious as to what the boat was. So thank you for bringing that up.
Michael just dropped something into the chat about an abandoned boat, City Island. I don't know if it's the
Wasn't
same
that
boat.
big,
No.
and it looked new. It didn't look, it wasn't rusty that I could tell.
Uh-huh. Robin, it is your turn.
Thanks. Wendy, it was one of Arizona's boats.
Aha.
Boy, according to this photo, I'm sure glad I don't live on East 23rd Street. I have two questions, one for Desiree and then one for Luke. If you can go back to the phase 2 northern end of the park, field 6, 7, and 8. I just want to make sure. So, no. Yes. So field 7 and 8 are closed now? I've forgotten, right? They've already closed? Because of what's working.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's just too bad that you're going to close that field in July, because even though I know there's this 42% open space, right now there are 3 ball fields in the park, and then there'll only be 2 ball fields in the park starting July 1st. So I don't know if you can rethink your schedule. I don't want to, of course, tell you guys to stop doing your work, but 42% of open space is great, but we're now going to be losing yet another ball field earlier than we said in the middle of the summer. And going back to, if you go back to that previous slide, the new areas that are going to open, I have a question for Luke. That multi-use turf field, is that permittable, or is that just going to be open use for anybody?
Yeah, just two things just to address the
You have to permit that
the ball field, the first one you mentioned. We had a lot of back and forth. It wasn't a casual decision to enable it. The contractor really emphasized the need to avoid delays, but it wasn't just okay, fine. It was a very deliberate discussion. For the multi-use turf field, it will be permittable. It's mostly it's like kids soccer is probably the best use case, but we would permit it. Yes. You're muted, by the way, Robin.
Is that going to be thoughtful again as who's getting a permit for that? Because I know there's always issues about people not from the community using our fields.
Sorry, you said would it be? I missed the
Is that going to be
initial.
a thoughtful approach to permitting that multi-use turf if it's going to be so that, I know that we've had a lot of discussions in these groups about outside groups coming in, adult groups coming in and using our fields. So I wonder how you're able to be thoughtful in the Parks Department, getting permits and deciding who gets to use that field.
Yeah, so the agency as a whole, beyond just District 3, has pushed this change to prioritize youth nonprofit leagues over for-profit leagues for sure, and adult in general. And then if there's that's one side of it, is just the youth nonprofit. The other side, as you mentioned, is the community, the local kids versus people from other areas. There is kind of anyone who's had these long-standing leagues, permits, etc., they do get prioritized if there were the nonprofit side. But the final option to all of that is if there's an issue, I'm here, I can advocate. So if we look and for whatever reason, a specific league that's been in the community for a long time, or it just represents the community, it's an important need, and they're not getting the appropriate game time, then I can dig into why that is the case. We did do a deep dive when Murphy Brothers was opened up into how that was used, and it turned out that it was 50% plus was to this one league that had historic ties, that was youth nonprofit. So kind of the last case scenario is me, and I promise to do my best to advocate for anyone who's been neglected. It wouldn't be deliberate, but by slipping through the cracks.
Thank you for that. I do want to ask you, going back to the field number 6, what's changed with the contractor that they pushed up the closure from before? If it was scheduled for August 1st and they're talking about being meeting deadlines or delaying, what changed?
Desiree, I'll throw that back to you, and I can add if needed.
Yeah, sure. No, it's so as we try to communicate as early as possible what the next steps are for the closures. As we've been communicating, it is a kind of a fluid process, and we're able to make certain changes, we're able not to make certain changes, and as the contractor is working through where he can open things and where things can be closed, he's trying to prioritize, or they are trying to prioritize, again, especially in the north part, getting the deep sewer work done so they could do the fill, it could settle, and then we could build on top of it. So, the contractor thought that they would be able to, go until August, as they are working through the numbers of what they have to do, et cetera. They, found that having that extra month would really benefit the workflow process again, and the schedule of getting that area completed quicker. So we, again, when we try to close things, we've come back when we were going to close the Esplanade, right? We came back, there was a community wanted to prioritize other things. So the contractor was able to move that around. So again, the contractor has really been trying to keep as many things open as possible. However, taking of that field a month early would really help, again, that full process and that being able all to be done with the deep sewer work and then the fill and compaction to really let them move forward in a more comprehensive way. So it's the kind of the fluidity of construction of what they could open when they can't. Last week or last month, we weren't able to open the area around the fireboat house. They took a deeper look at that, and now we are able to have that area open. So it's not, nothing is set in stone, and we are trying to come to you with the most amount of information possible at each of these meetings in advance. Again, with the understanding that everything is subject to change as more test pits are done, as utility relocations are found, as they're doing all of this investigative work, in the northern end of the park, and as they're working to open as much as they can in the southern end of the park. So it's really just the process of construction and the coordination of that led to that decision. Thank you. Thank you.
Christine?
Hi, yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Desiree, for your presentation. As always, a lot of good information in there. What I would say is to slide 16, I'm a little bit confused, just like I think a lot of us are here, about that wall. And I would just really like to understand more of the thinking, because at one point, I think we were told there was going to be a flyover bridge and it would be built right after ESCO is done. And now the thinking has changed from building something over the FDR to around Con Edison. I'm just curious how this all fits together and why we have this wall now. I think that's the reason for it, but I think any sort of more detail about that so we can wrap our head around it would be really helpful. And also with some, at least estimated timeframes of when what is happening. All right, and then homework, in other words, and
Yeah,
more
will do.
information. And then on your slide 12, where you're showing the tennis courts opening up. And this is just a kooky idea, because I think I brought this up last time about the lack of restrooms in the southern part of the park. And I have two kooky ideas or two questions. The tennis building, which I think is between the two tennis courts, when is that going to open?
I don't have the timeline on the tennis building. Luke, do you recall offhand? It's not until
Not
later
soon.
yeah, it's not
I
in your term.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the next round of proposed openings either. And maybe I can just speak to this. So part of the discussions we're having with DDC right now includes some kind of structure for our person to work out of to manage the tennis areas. It wouldn't include a bathroom, but it would be a place where someone could work out of.
Yeah, which would already be a plus. I would just really, again, emphasize and advocate for something better than porta potties. When I went to Domino Park, when it first opened up, they had these amazing, they looked like trailers. There were bathrooms. You walked into them, it was steps, and I think there was a ramp too. And they were just a lot more sturdy and permanent than porta potties. And I think they had running water even. And I think if we could, if we don't have functioning restrooms, maybe we should shoot for something like that, because porta potties just get so gross so fast. And then you also need to bring a truck in to pump that stuff out, right? I don't need, so I don't have to tell you about maintenance, but there's a lot of other implications with just plopping some porta potties in this park. And then the other even further out idea I have is really pleased to hear that the area around the fireboat house will be open. Can we reactivate the bathrooms in the fireboat house? I mean, I was actually shocked to see pictures of the fireboat house, the interior, in a recent article from E.V. Grieve. But this is neither here nor there, but it just comes to mind if you feel it is safe to open the area around the fireboat house, at least there would be some semblance of bathrooms for the reopened park. I know it might be a stretch. I just want to throw it out here. That's all I have.
Thanks, Christine. I believe the utilities aren't working in the fire boathouse, but again, I will certainly bring back all of the comments that we received tonight to the greater team. Thank you for your thoughts.
I don't see any other questions or comments. Anyone? All right. Well, thank you, Luke and Desiree.
Thank you. And the presentation will be online tomorrow if anybody wants to take a closer look. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Desiree.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, as is usually the case when the DDC presentations are on the short side, I propose we skip our usual break and go straight into the CAG only, but if someone wants to take the break, please let me know. All right. So the way we usually start out the CAG only is I just want to give you guys a chance, you obviously had a chance to ask Desiree and Luke questions, but if there's anything else you want to raise or flag, about what you heard tonight, please feel free. All right, well then I am going to turn it over to Diane, who had a suggested agenda item for us to discuss during the CAG only, about the pinch point. So Diane, do you want to share your suggestion?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the CAG, just kind of builds on what Christine was saying a few minutes ago. Since we don't understand what's going to happen up there at the very northern tip of the park, because we're changing from the flyover bridge to the over water greenway, I'm wondering if, is there any interest on the CAG in exploring with DDC whether that could stay open, that very northern part, and leave the connection open, and then leave the esplanade open along, the areas that are going to close. I guess, I mean, I'm not the contractor, but that would not interrupt work on the 10th Street Bridge. And that way, it would, until the contractor is able to work with GDC and figure out what's going on up there. I don't see the point in demolishing everything and then having it just sit there as a giant pile of dirt until GDC figures out the timeline for the Greenway extension around the Con Ed dock. I hope that makes sense, but that's that. A couple people have mentioned this outside of the CAG, and I just wanted to know if there's any interest in the CAG in advocating for that.
I'm interested in it because I've done both now. I've walked, of course, the pinch point, but I've also walked across Avenue C to get up. And there's construction there. It's messy. It's not at all conducive. And the second you get into Stye Park, there's a gazillion runners. So for the people who are running, who are going to lose the track, that's a really important area to keep open. And it's, the pinch point's not that pleasant, obviously. I was looking at that area where they're going to build that extension out into the river, and there's boats that come in there. So is it going to be something that, are they going to make a big hill that people have to walk up and over, or is it going to be a drawbridge? I would like to get more information on what their plan is as well. And maybe they haven't even started thinking about it. My last point is that if there could be some dog space at that north end of the park, that might be good for people with dogs. And maybe they're all things we could talk about together since it's been sort of parceled off.
I mean, there's no harm in asking for anything, but I don't think we're going to get it.
The voice of experience.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
I
no harm in
agree.
asking them to keep that open. And you know, I'm not opposed to also asking for a dog area as well, but that's definitely not going to happen because they're not going to change the design. We've asked them to change the design before, and they are not going to change the design. The park has been designed for years, and that's the park we're getting.
Except in this case, they haven't designed it yet. They keep saying that. So we're early rather than midway. I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm happy to support asking for both of those things. I'm not optimistic that we're going to get either one.
Any other responses to Diane's proposal?
Yeah, I think it would make sense to just push them a little bit more because it seems a little bit half-cooked, this whole idea. It just doesn't, you know, feel like there is really, I want them to really make a case for why they need to demolish this now and close it. And because, you know, that's always the answer. We'll just close it, you know. They don't think about how that affects the community.
Thanks, Christine. All right, so I am hearing agreement / consensus. Is this something the CAG is thinking, Tara and I could prepare a letter for, or is it something I can bring up the next time I talk to them, which I think is not this week, but next week? Or I can email them. But just thoughts if this should be in the form of a letter.
It might save some time. You know, they'll be more prepared to respond to you when you do meet if they hear about it in a letter. And also, I think a letter gives it a little more weight, more gravitas.
Yeah, I think they feel obligated to respond to letters.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're dictated to respond to letters. I don't know, but I would say, I mean, we can hit them with a 1-2 punch. I mean, if you're going to meet with them before we can draft a letter, you can just say, hey, this is coming your way in an official letter, but just so you know, these are 2 things the CAG wants.
Okay. That sounds like a plan. Any other thoughts on this or any other topic?
I just want to say that I don't know if people have gone over and seen the gravel piles building up at Houston Street, but there's so much more to do. It's kind of shocking to even think about how much more has to come in to the park right there.
I'm really amazed at the, you know, I'm biased obviously towards Corlears, but I don't know if anybody has seen the new entryway towards the new bridge there. And I mean, I know we had to raise it to be ADA compliant, but it is a much steeper incline than I thought it was going to be.
And this is, you know, providing better accessibility was, you know, kind of one of the top 3 things this was about. It'll be interesting to see how it's managed by people with wheelchairs, etc.
Well, the Delancey Street Bridge is really very long. And you know, the way they have it now, but I'm sure once they open the other end, we'll see how you can enter the park there. But right now it's, if you can't walk well, you can't even get into the park. I think we should ask for everything we want to ask for, you know, and you just got to keep asking and putting out there.
Do you think it makes, would they respond if we asked for an updated, you know, budget overview? Have they needed more money? Have there, or do you think that's like kind of not going to happen? So in any case, that we would get an update on that.
I would be interested in seeing a updated Gantt chart. and compare it to what they have presented in the past.
I can include that in the letter. Anybody else? All right, well, I will prepare the letter about the pinch point and include a request for an updated Gantt chart, since you know, our ethos is that it doesn't hurt to ask. But you know, if anything else occurs to you, you know how to reach me and Tara in between meetings. So if no one else has anything, I think we should adjourn.
Seconded.
All right.
Thank you.
In an
Thank
hour.
you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Guys, thank you.
Bye.